This is Two Takes, One Marriage.
I'm Jonah.
And I'm Susan.
We'll be talking about whatever is on our minds.
The random thoughts, the funny stuff, and the conversations that probably didn't need microphones.
Real love, real life, really funny.
Welcome back. How you doing, babe?
Hello, everyone. It's been a while.
I asked how you're doing.
I'm good.
Yeah. Golly.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I had a headache most of today. Hasn't been faring well, but go ahead and do this because we need to get it done. Because we missed last week.
We did.
Yeah, we need to start being better about recording multiple episodes from time to time so that we have a backup catalog for those weeks that we're just not feeling it. And that was definitely last week for sure.
Yeah, you weren't feeling the greatest a couple of nights, though. So.
Yeah, it happens.
Sure does. Well, any news?
This is your time, sir.
I know, I was just wondering if there's anything else that you had.
No, I mean, unless you know something I don't.
No.
Okay, then I got nothing. It's all you, sir.
Sure rodeo. Well, we've had good production from the two or three signings that we had in the trade deadline. Tyler Malley's had 2 good outings. It'll be interesting to see how he does against a playoff team. Because the first couple series, we weren't really playing playoff teams since the trade deadline and the All-Star break. But we dropped the series to the Diamondbacks, and now we're going out to the mid-United States, going to Minnesota for the next 3 days, and then I think we're playing the White Sox for a game, the makeup game. Then we got to go to Milwaukee, play the Brewers. And so we'll see. And I think we play the Dodgers at home coming up pretty soon. So it's going to be quite a schedule. We'll see how we fare against those teams. Feels like somewhat we're just in cruise control right now. But AJ Smith-Shawver is doing really good in the minors. And so hopefully we'll see him come back, and we'll see where they put him in the rotation. Maybe move one of the guys down to the bullpen. And hopefully we can get Robert Suarez back finally sometime in the next month so he can be geared up, ready for the playoffs. But yeah, our offense still is one of the highest in the league. Matt Olson just hit his 36th home run. He's like 3rd in the MLB this year in home runs right now. So we'll continue to watch the season play out. Hopefully we can get a deep run in October. So, yeah, that's the Braves update.
Nice. Okay. Alrighty. So we're gonna talk about, we have a murder mystery. Well, it's not like a mystery, like we know who did it, but it's a murder. But the only reason I picked one is because all my For You page has been this most recent murder trial from a murder that happened in 2023. It's Lindsay Clancy.
When she first told me, she said 2003. I'm like,
that's wild.
Why in the world would they be looking at a case that's 23 years old? I mean, like, there's things.
Well, they could be.
Sometimes
a murder could have happened in 2003.
Yeah.
And then the murderer wasn't caught until 2018, and then they weren't tried until after due to the fact of COVID. You know, things get pushed back. But no, so the case that has been on my For You page is wild. It has just been crazy wild. I'm so mind blown at some of the things that are being said that I don't understand how they didn't investigate more thoroughly. So I'm not going to go into details because it does deal with children, and I've always said that I don't really want to discuss. But the only thing, like, a lot of people know the Christopher Watts case is very similar in which he tried to frame his wife and it didn't go as planned. And now most people speculate that in this case, with the Clancy case, that the husband again committed all of it, did all of it, and is trying to blame the wife, but you know, it she didn't fully die, so there was no way to, like, now she's got this trial. If she hadn't have survived, who knows what they would have, if they even really would have investigated it, or if it would have been just because the dude got married 4 months
After
his family
died.
Which I could never. If something terrible happened to my family, especially if my spouse was the one who supposedly did it, there is no way I could ever trust another human being to marry them.
Yeah.
Like, that would be really hard for me to do. I don't know. What about you?
There would definitely be a healing process for sure. It'd be probably years before anything like.
It wouldn't be like 4 months and then
No.
you're married having another
No.
baby.
That'd be insane.
Yeah, I think that that's a bit wild, honestly. But so it made me want to do. Yeah, it's not. The jury hasn't come out yet on the conviction of it, so we'll see what happens. So because it's been all over my For You page, I was like, oh, we could do an episode of, you know, a murder of some kind.
Murder.
Judas.
No.
I heard that a lot. I'd never seen the Vine before, but I heard it a lot while we were hanging out with his family. Not a lot, but like a few times. And so I tried to bring it up to Jonah and be funny, and he didn't get it. I also was butchering it. I didn't do it right. You're supposed to say, I brought you some murder.
Well, I was quoting Sean from Psych.
Oh, no, I was quoting the thing. I was quoting the Vine.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up the Vine right after you said it.
Well, sometimes it just happens where you're on two different wavelengths.
Yeah.
It does happen. Because there's just so many movies and TV shows and episodes of, like, things, music.
Well, that wasn't even a TV show. That was a social media thing.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is, like,
so there's so many things out there.
There's so many things that you can get, like, a little snip of, and you reference it, but then someone thinks it's something else because there's just that possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we are going to talk about the murder of Betsy Farah. I did not learn how to pronounce the last name. It's Faria.
All right.
So I'm just going to call her Betsy. And we're just going to leave it at that. Okay? All right. So it is December 27th, 2011. You ready?
Yeah.
For the story? It was Tuesday in Troy, Missouri, and 42-year-old Betsy had just spent the day doing something that had become part of her life, chemotherapy. Betsy had breast cancer. By this point, the cancer had spread and her condition was terminal. She was still trying to live as normal as possible, chemotherapy becoming a regular part of her routine. That day, she had gone to St. Louis for treatment, and afterward, she needed a ride home. Her friend Pam, Hupp, Hupp, Humperdink? No, Hupp. I don't know. But her friend Pam offered to take her home. like back and forth.
Okay.
And that sounds completely innocent. Two friends, one giving the other a ride home after a difficult day. Pam picked Betsy up and drove her back to her house in Troy. According to Pam's account, she dropped Betsy off at approximately 7 p.m. and then Pam left. At that moment, there was nothing that suggested that anything terrible was about to happen. Betsy was home. Her husband, Russ, wasn't there yet. And sometime during the next few hours, Betsy was murdered.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, put some sounds in there, babe. You got that. Okay. And you can ask questions if you need to. I won't know the answer, but you can ask them.
Okay.
I didn't. So
I guess we're doing other mysteries that you looked up. You just wanted to talk about that other murder.
well, the reason I wanted to explain why I picked.
Oh, why you picked murder mystery episode because of what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I missed that part.
That's what I was explaining the whole time. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to listen back to this, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, I must have spaced."
Yeah.
No. So, I got this story, and it's a bit long, and I was tired, so I didn't read through it fully, so I don't have the answers to your questions if you have a question that I don't know the answer to
Was
yet.
this when you were falling asleep on the couch yesterday?
Yes.
Dang.
Okay. All right. Later that night, Russ was on his way home. Russ and Betsy have been married for several years. They had a complicated relationship, and there had reportedly been arguments between them. But Russ would eventually maintain that whatever problems they had, he did not kill his wife. So, according to what happened, Russ arrived home that night and he found Betsy. She was dead, and the scene was horrifying. Betsy had been stabbed numerous times. Investigators found multiple knives at the scene, including one still in her body. So he came home, he found her, and he called 911.
Mm-hmm.
He told the dispatcher that he had come home and found his wife, and almost immediately the investigation began focusing on him.
Really?
Yes. Well,
I think that's always probably number one.
Yeah, number one suspect typically
is the
when
spouse
it comes
at first.
to when it comes to spouses or people when it comes to murder investigations, typically it also depends on the type of, I guess, severeness.
Yeah.
Like if it's personal or not. And if it's personal, then you know it's going to be somebody close to the victim. You know, that's typically what is said. And it's has a little bit more rage, making it more personal. Mm-hmm. And like multiple knives.
Yeah.
That shows rage. To me, that screams this person knew this. It wasn't like a home break-in or anything like that. You know. So, back to the story. They're focused on him. And so it happens so quickly. A woman is murdered inside her home. Her husband is the person who finds her. The husband becomes the obvious person for investigators to look at. Police began questioning Russ about his marriage, his relationship with Betsy, and where he had been that evening. Russ said he had been out with friends. He gave investigators an explanation for where he had been and who could verify it. But investigators weren't convinced. They began hearing about problems in the marriage. They heard allegations about arguments and Russ's temper. Russ was given a polygraph examination. So, a lot of times I've heard, don't do a polygraph. Even if you think that even though you know you didn't do anything wrong, whatever's going on.
Can you deny a polygraph though?
You can say no to a polygraph. However, that makes you look more guilty. But if ever you get arrested by the police, immediately contact a lawyer. Immediately get a lawyer and say you want a lawyer. Do not talk to them because it doesn't matter if you're innocent or guilty. They will see it however they want to see it. And those polygraph tests aren't always
too many crime shows.
No, this is what actual people say though. This is what lawyers say too. Well, this is what lawyers say because polygraphs aren't always accurate.
Yeah.
They can get a false reading.
Yeah.
And then you look guilty when you're actually not, or you look innocent when you're actually guilty. So you never know where you're going to land with a polygraph examination, so best to just
You never
not
know
do
where you're going to land in general unless you have video evidence.
Not always. There's fingerprints,
No,
DNA.
yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
As long as there's no evidence at all, then you should be fine. But don't go committing murder, people. Let's not do that. We're not condoning that.
Yeah, definitely not.
So he's given a polygraph. The results were interpreted as indicating deception when he was questioned about Betsy's murder. That became another piece of the case against him. But there was another person investigators were talking to, Pam. Do you remember who Pam is?
The friend that dropped her off.
Yep,
Right?
she was the friend who had driven Betsy home after chemotherapy. Pam told investigators about Russ. She described problems between Russ and Betsy. She also provided information that investigators considered significant about Betsy's state of mind and her relationship with Russ. One particularly important piece of evidence came from Betsy's computer. Investigators found a document that appeared to be a message from Betsy expressing fear of Russ. At first glance, that looked incredibly damning.
Yeah.
And if you're investigating a murder and you find something that appears to be written by the victim saying that she's afraid of her husband, that's gonna get the police's attention, and that they're definitely gonna be like, okay, so we're on the right track.
That's a red flag.
Yeah. But later, questions were raised about that document. There were issues involving its creation and authorship, and it became part of the controversy surrounding the original investigation. But at the time, Russ was becoming the center of the case, and eventually he was arrested. Russ was charged with Betsy's murder. He continued to say he was innocent. Prosecutors believed they could prove otherwise. The case went to trial in 2013. So keep in mind.
2 years later.
Yep. It happened in 2011, 2013. It went to trial and he was convicted. He was sentenced to life in prison. So at that point, if we're looking at the official story, it seemed like the mystery was solved. Betsy was murdered. Her husband had been convicted. The jury heard the evidence and found him guilty. But her husband wasn't giving up. He continued fighting the conviction, and eventually he got another trial. This time, his defense was able to present additional evidence and challenge parts of the original investigation. And this is where the case starts changing dramatically.
So when did he get a new trial? How many years later?
I think it was 2013
is when he got convicted.
Yeah, hold on. I had it here somewhere. Now I've lost it. Give me a second.
Details, babe, details.
It was before 2019.
So like 5 years later? 6 years later?
Sure. Well, 2015.
So 2 years later.
Yeah, 2015.
2 years in prison.
He gets a second trial.
At least 2 years in prison.
Oh, I should have done this one. Dang. This one had more information. I just wanted it a little bit more summed up because it was already long. Okay, so where were we at?
He got a second trial with his coming forward with more evidence, different evidence.
Yes, and there is where the case starts changing dramatically. I already said that. Because he wasn't just saying I didn't do it. His defense was now pointing towards another person. Who do you think that person is?
Pam.
Mm-hmm.
The only other person that was mentioned in the story.
Well, you don't know. Maybe I could have left out a person. You don't know. And suddenly people began taking a much closer look at Pam. There's one detail that makes the entire case take a completely different turn. 4 days before Betsy's murder, Betsy had changed the beneficiary of a $150,000 life insurance policy.
To Pam.
The original beneficiary had been Russ. But on December 23rd, 2011, she changed her beneficiary to Pam. 4 days later, Betsy was dead. That's one of those details where you almost have to stop and go back through the timeline.
Yeah.
So December 23rd, Betsy changes a $150,000 insurance policy. Keep in mind, Betsy has chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Like she's gone to chemotherapy. She's got cancer. So and it's not going away. It didn't sound like it was.
Well, did it say what stage it was or no? Didn't have the.
Yeah, it said. It said
Maybe I missed you saying that part.
Had spread and her condition was terminal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her condition is terminal. So
why not just wait for her to die?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a sad way to look at it, but
especially if she changed hands of the insurance policy.
Yeah, I know. Just wait it out. Who knows how long it would take? Yeah. But I mean,
that's a morbid way of thinking about it, but
I would rather. Well, okay. If it had been a dosing of some kind and not a brutal murder, that was brutal. The multiple knives. But
why
and
do you
the stabbing,
think she would get mad if she changed the I'm starting to.
But also,
why it would?
Wouldn't the husband be
it
mad?
Would be that's what I was gonna say. Wouldn't it still be pointing towards Russ because she changed the insurance policy to someone else, so he gets mad? We're at the beginning of the story. It says a temper enraged killing.
Yeah.
Stabbed 14 times.
No, it didn't say how many times she was.
I thought it said 14.
I don't know. I don't think it did.
Multiple stab wounds, and the knife was still in the body.
Well, and it had multiple knives. So you have multiple stab wounds with multiple knives, which means someone came with their knives and went and grabbed the knives and then started killing her and used a different knife every few stabs, or whatever. But I know, you would think that, but also you have to think of the money. But however, again, I think it would have been a little bit different had it been in euthanasia killing, where they're just in pain and you're just trying to.
Euthanasia?
Yeah, where you're just the angel of death or whatever. There's some specific name that it's called when there is a person who kills people so that they die the way they want to, not in agony, you know what I'm talking about?
Sort of.
Well, do you understand what I'm saying? Is the type of murderer that one is, where they're
just trying to ease their suffering so they end them.
Yeah.
This wasn't one of those situations.
No, it wasn't. But the thing is that if it was her friend, I feel like that's the way it should have gone. If it's supposed to be her, they're pointing the finger, but I feel like if it was her friend, she cared about her, she just got this money life insurance policy, she would probably find a more humane way to do it, because she just was tired of seeing her suffer, because she's taken her back from chemotherapy. Maybe Betsy was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do chemotherapy. We don't know the conversation that they had. Who knows?
Seems like a very violent way to kill someone, though, but it just wants to die.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is I feel like if it was the friend, it would definitely have. Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Because now they're trying to point the finger at Pam.
Yeah.
So, back to the timeline. So you've got Betsy, December 23rd of that year. Betsy changes the life insurance policy. December 27th, she receives chemotherapy. Pam picks her up and drives her home. Later that night, Betsy's murdered, and Pam is now the beneficiary of the policy. Pam eventually received the insurance money because Russ was
in prison.
Yeah, he got convicted of the crime. Yeah. So once the investigation is done, they will then give the money out, as long as you're not the murderer. Yeah. They're not gonna give you the beneficiary. I don't know. Maybe they do. I've never looked into what happens if you're the murderer, and do you still get that beneficiary money? Because
You
why would you get it? Because it's still legally binding that you're the rightful owner to that money. Does that make sense?
I guess so.
So I don't know. Okay. So Pam receives the insurance money. She maintained that Betsy had intended the money to benefit her daughters, although questions were later raised about her explanations regarding the money and what happened to it. And suddenly, investigators had a completely different possible motive to consider: money. But here's the important part. When Russ went through his second trial in 2015, that's where it tells it, his defense was able to present evidence that had not been fully presented to the first jury. The defense challenged the investigation, they challenged the evidence, they highlighted problems with the original case, and they poured in towards Pam. This time, the result was completely different. Russ was acquitted. After spending years in prison, he was free. And now there was a huge unanswered question. If Russ didn't kill Betsy, who did? And then, several years later, Pam became involved in another murder. This is where the story gets almost unbelievable. In August 2016, a man named Lois Garpenberg, I picked the worst with the worst names. Do you know what that says? Okay. Garpenberg. I don't know.
Burgers.
Lewis. The dude's name is Lewis. Was shot and killed. Pam told investigators that Lewis had attacked her. Her initial story was that she had been defending herself, but police didn't ultimately believe that explanation. As they investigated, they determined that the circumstances surrounding Lewis's death had been staged. There was also an extraordinary detail involving Russ. A note was found that was apparently intended to make it appear as though Russ had arranged for Lewis to attack Pam.
Interesting.
Investigators eventually concluded that this was part of a setup designed to make it look as though Russ was still trying to get revenge against Pam. Pam eventually entered an Alford plea to the murder of Lewis. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And now investigators had something they hadn't had in the Betsy case. Pam was a convicted murderer. That changed how they looked at everything. So they decided to open up the case. Investigators went back to Betsy's case. They looked at the insurance policy. They looked at the timeline again. They looked at Pam's statements from the original.
Yeah.
They looked at the original investigation, and they looked at everything they had learned about Lewis's case. Eventually, prosecutors came to believe that Pam had killed Betsy. Their theory was that the $150,000 insurance policy provided a motive. They believed Pam had deliberately positioned herself to become the beneficiary and then killed Betsy. In 2021, Pam was charged with first-degree murder in Betsy's death. But this is an important distinction. Betsy has not been convicted of killing Betsy. Pam has not been convicted.
She was just charged?
Yeah, she was just charged. She hasn't gone to trial.
But she's already in prison for the other thing.
She is serving life in prison for the separate murder of Lewis. It still remains an allegation because she hasn't gone to trial.
Yeah.
She hasn't been convicted. So really, it's just hearsay. Or not hearsay, but like
So
it's still allegedly. She's allegedly killed.
Who's Betsy's killer?
So when we tell this story, we can't say Pam killed Betsy. We can say that prosecutors allege she did, and we can talk about the evidence and the circumstances that led them to charge her. And that's what makes this case so complicated, because there are really two stories happening at the same time. And that's the story of Betsy, a woman who was terminally ill, who went to chemotherapy on December 27th, who was driven home by a friend, and who was murdered that night. And then there's the story of Russ, the husband who was immediately suspected, the man who was convicted, the man who spent years in prison, and the man who was eventually acquitted. And then there's Pam, the friend who drove Betsy home, the person who became the beneficiary of Betsy's life insurance just days before her death, the person who eventually became involved in another murder, and the person who was ultimately charged with killing Betsy. But there's still something we don't have: a definitive courtroom answer to exactly what happened inside Betsy's house that night. And that's what makes this case so fascinating. Because when you first hear it, you think it's going to be a story about a husband who murdered his wife.
Yeah.
Then you find out the husband was acquitted. Then you find out about the insurance policy. Then you find out about Pam. Then you find out Pam was later convicted in an entirely separate murder.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, Betsy's murder happened in 2011. And then the murder for the other gentleman wasn't until 2016. That's like a 5-year difference. And suddenly you're looking back at the December night wondering how many things investigators missed, because somewhere between the time Pam says she dropped Betsy off and the time Russ came home and found her, she was murdered. And after all these years, there's still the question at the center of the entire story: what really happened that night?
Guess we won't know until the afterlife.
I know. And it was a mystery. Like, prosecutors allegedly believe that.
Who do you think did it?
Yeah. I mean, he got acquitted, but that doesn't mean anything. He could have killed her because he got angry over the life insurance policy, which, again, don't know why you would kill her, because then you don't get anything.
Yeah.
But I just find that very interesting. And the letter she typed up at her house, supposedly, they don't think that she wrote it, but I don't know. But yeah,
I think Pam was cooking evidence when she tried to frame him twice.
Yeah. You think that she wrote the letter on the computer?
Yeah.
It didn't say how many days old the letter was, so next time I'll have a little bit more details if you want. But I just kind of wanted a story.
Murder mystery episode.
Yeah, so hopefully.
That was a good one.
Hopefully you enjoyed it.
I did. I really enjoyed it.
I think you spaced out for the first half of it, though.
I was, I guess, in my own little world for the first few sentences of the case, and then I came back.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.